Hello, everyone. Welcome to Foreign Podcast, a podcast we're going to be diving deep, getting to know different people, their experience and journey, and we're going to break some barriers. And today I have a very special guest, the man who wrote this book, Pushing the Generations Forward. And if you know me, I'm always going deep to get to know new people and get to know their history, their life, and what got them to where they are now. Kwamane, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much. Thanks
I'm
for
very
having me.
excited.
Thanks for having me. Me too. I love that we've already been in a podcast for the last hour or so just talking about it. So I appreciate I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Absolutely, I love that. So diving deep, I was reading your book, and I suggested some people to read your book as well. I've learned a lot about you. I feel like on that book, and it has inspired me to put my life in the book as well. So it's just easier to get out of my comfort zone, and so people can get to know me on a more profound way instead of just superficial.
Yeah.
So, what was your motive to write a book and put everything in the book instead of just maybe a podcast or a
Yeah.
show or something?
So that's a great question. I think, and just thinking about how do we, what I understand, and we talked about this a little bit earlier.
Yes.
What I understand is how can I get my story out there, because I believe that someone might need to know what I figured out and how to get out of certain situations in my own life.
Yeah.
Someone needs to understand my journey to understand their journey so they can get to a better place in their life. And so there's a lot of ways I could have done that. And what I will say is I did not think writing a book would be one of them. I was like, nah, I'm not an author. It took me about 6 years to even like I had the idea,
Yes.
right? I had the idea about the book. I was like, I want to share my experience, right? I was 26 years old. I was talking with my cousin at Chipotle, and the idea of pushing the generations forward came to mind. And him and I were collaborating on that. We were having great conversations about that. And we were just talking, and him and I talking, and through his words, through my words, it became pushing generations forward. I was like, I'm gonna write a book about that. And then about an hour or so later, after I left the restaurant, I was so happy. I was like, I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna do it. But then doubt came in for sure. It's like I'm not a writer at all. I don't write books. But through other life journeys and through other experiences in my life, I found the time, one, but I also found the courage to, because I understood as I was navigating from those 6 years, I decided to do a book until I actually did it. I came across a lot of people who look like me, but also share similar experiences. I came across them, and they were like, "Man, I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with this," and it all came back to, for some odd reason, pushing generations forward. And so being able to support people who came in my path on understanding the concept of pushing the generations forward, but also understand how you get out of, or how do you navigate life with that mindset, and then how it helps you get to where you want to get to from a life of, I call it from a life of surviving to thriving.
Yes.
I was like, okay, maybe I am onto something. Maybe what I've been formulating in my head for the last 6 years, I'm onto something.
You did a great job. The book itself is very inspiring, like I was telling you earlier. It has inspired me because I have gone through similar situations. Some things that hasn't healed yet, but it's just like with time, it just, for a lot of people, it seemed like it gone away because I'm a grown up now. But there's a lot of things there. I've gone to therapy. I've talking to my therapist about it. I've talking to my best friend about it. But it's there because it's some things that you cannot fully communicate. Like coming to myself from a Cape Verdean family, it's hard when you're growing up, like the old folks saying I love you and consolating you and coming to you and saying it's going to be okay. It's really hard for them.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the generation is different, but for my growing up, it was different. So growing up with a lot of things that I had gone through, and for a lot of people, going to therapy is just like, oh, you're crazy. That's the mentality that I grew up in. You're crazy. You have too much going on. And you do. Even as a child, there's so many things that you need to upcome. And if you don't have someone there for me, there's so many outcomes that you can get from that. So reading Pushing the Generations Forward was amazing to me. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be amazing to a lot of people, but it's just because it's just going to incentivize people to be like, oh, so I have the same issue. How come I haven't put it out there? It might not be a book, but it's just like talk to someone. Make sure the person is okay. Don't just assume the thing is okay because it has been so long. So to you, writing that book, and one of the things that I was mentioning a lot is that a lot of people are at the table and they don't know if they're at the table making the decision or just being a part of the decision. So what made you think that as like your life experience, as now you're a life coach, what made you think of that, like outside of the box like
Yeah.
that?
I wouldn't say I stole the idea. I did. The concept, I actually heard it. Um, I was back home in the church. It was a Black History Month, and and it was a tough time for me. I was, out of, I wasn't in school, um, and I wasn't, I was literally trying to get back in school, but couldn't afford it for that semester.
Right.
And so it's a really tough time for me in my life and trying to figure out, like, okay, I can't go to school, not because I don't want to go to this, because I can't afford
Financially,
it.
yeah.
Right, I can't afford it. And so it was a Black History program at my church, and I thought it would be just a regular Black History program, right? It's going to be like, all right, where we're going to do the thing and have a saying, live every voice, but it was so different for me, and it changed my life because there was an impersonator, a Frederick Douglass impersonator, who the speech he gave impersonating Frederick Douglass, you would think that he was Frederick Douglass. Like, I felt empowered in the moment, but he said something to me, and he asked the entire group. He said, "Where are you at today?" And like in the middle of his speech, that's a question he's asking the audience, and his pause was so significant to the room because no one knew what he was talking about, but we knew we should have known what he's talking about.
Right.
Right.
We're at the church,
Yeah,
but
right.
that's not the
That's
question.
not the question at all. Right. And it's like, where are you today? And then the way he put it was, he said, "Are you at the table or are you on the menu?" It's like, oh, okay. And then he went on to elaborate that where do you want to be to make decisions about your life, or do you want someone that doesn't look like you, doesn't know what you got going on, doesn't know anything about anything in your family, to be at the table
making a decision for you,
making decisions for you, right? And I thought about all the young men, who in that moment didn't know how to answer. Like, how do you answer that question? Especially at me at 20, I don't know, 20, 24, 23, somewhere in that age. Like, how do I answer that? I don't know where I am right now, right? And so as he started to elaborate a little bit more, that I need to do, even in my tough times and in my hardship and what I was going through, um, I need to figure out how to ensure that I am at the table making decisions about my life.
Right.
And for far too long, there have been other people, other powers that be, that have been the decision makers about not only my life, but also people who look like me, or people who look like me as well. And so from that day forward, right, and that's why I had to put that chapter in the book, because and when you think about pushing generations forward, you have to first accept that table mindset and say, you know what, I'm going to be at the table about everything about and make decisions about everything that's going on in my life, not someone else, right? And also too, I think about, working. I was also working in juvenile justice, and so you're seeing young kids, young people, who are sitting behind closed doors, sitting behind these bars, and I thought about, where are they at? Because someone else made a decision about their lives, and they weren't even there.
Right.
And so as I think about the table mindset and why that has to be I guess pre-reading or pre-notion to accepting this mentality of pushing generations forward.
Right.
Where are you today? Are you at the table, or are you in the menu, or are you in the agenda, as how I put in the book? And so if you're asking yourself that on a daily basis, when life does get tough, when life does throw some things your way, when people don't understand what you're going through, what you're dealing with, I'm just trying to be at the table, right? I'm just trying to be where I can ensure that I am making decisions and not someone else.
I really love that. I really love that. When I read that part yesterday, I got to ask myself, where are you right now and what are you trying to be? Because when you're finding a corporate job, they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But the answer is, where do you see yourself in a company working for someone in the next 5 years? It's never someone coming to you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You yourself, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years? So when I read that yesterday, I was like, okay, Angela, ask yourself, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are you doing now? What's the impact that you're doing in your life now that's going to push you forward and it's going to make someone, because there's always someone in your life or someone just sees you and like, I want to be like that person or a better version of that person. But how can I make that happen?
Yeah.
So the impact of the things that we do now has a huge impact on future generations. So reading that, I was like, that is huge. So people should read that, because when you read novels, you read about different people's stories, it just combined into one and you're like, this is my story as well, but I don't know how to push it forward myself. So as a life coach, what's the impact do you think that this new generation, new society has? That is like you were trying to push the generation forward to make a good impact. But with all those new changes with the new generation, what do you think it's a good idea to put it out there for the future generation to know and to learn that this is what you should do and not just follow all the bad things that's coming along.
Well, I mean, again, for the new generation as well, they will at some point get to a point where they realize, because when we're young, we take things, material things, we take
Yes.
pursuing a job, this great career, this great, house. I have the house, I have the car, I have the shoes, I have the clothes. I think that's probably been every generation, right? So,
Yeah.
our parents did the same thing in another way. But when you realize at some point you grow up and you mature enough and you realize and you understand that I can't take any of those things with me. I can't take the cars, I can't take the houses, I can't. All you really can take, all you really could do in this life is make it better for somebody else.
True.
Right? I mean, reason why we go and we want to make it better for like, our family members, like you talking about your niece, like
Yes.
hoping she's following you, hoping she's seeing how you're navigating your life and trying to make this world and her world a better place.
Yes.
But for the younger generation, that, immaturity sometimes sticks in, like myself included. Like I thought chasing the career and chasing the money and chasing the statues and this, the stature of this position, but that's actually not true. Like that's not how you push generations forward, but that's also not how you move from a life of thriving to surviving. And so for our young people, it's going to be important for them to understand or also take on the concept of like, it's not about the things you chase. It's about your experiences and the memories that you have in life. And then also too, like how do you take what has happened to you
Yes.
and change it for the positive, right? Hard to do. Sometimes it's not great to do at all. But how do you take that aspect of what happened to you, what was going on in your life, and change it for the better for the next generations to make sure that they never go through what you went
They don't
through.
follow the same path. Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes it's a little bit harder to see that because it's all about the chasing the American dream, all about chasing the things that will pass away at some point,
Yeah.
right? But like what can you leave back? Your memories with your family, right? Opportunities for them to grow, opportunities for them to succeed, right? And that's how you live a more impactful life. And so, and speaking and answer your question, and speaking with the younger, and also having conversation with young people who are in the younger generation, or who are coming after me, is just my biggest thing is really just understand that all you have in this world, in this life,
Yeah.
is the experiences and the wisdom and knowledge that you can pass down, and that it's priceless, and it will do, and that will have far more impact than anything you can do with your time on this earth.
I really love that because growing up myself, my mom was very strict, like very strict. My friends, they still make fun of me because of that. And I used to say, "Oh my God, my mom is so strict, and everybody else's mom, they're perfect. They let them go wherever they want to go, do whatever they want to do, have a boyfriend, have this, have that." And then I came to the US at 17. My mom was scared
Mm-hmm.
because I was so young. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to cook. I wasn't cleaning back home. I was just like her little girl. And then I came to realization that I had a perfect mom.
Mm-hmm.
She protected me from so much,
Mm-hmm.
like so much. And now like I'm grateful for that. And when I look back, people ask me, who's your inspiration? I tell them, my mom was a single mom. My grandfather died when I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
And they are my
Right.
inspirations.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people that made sure I am the person that I am now. I pushed forward, and everyone was like, why are you in school? Why are you just pursuing a career? Because if you go to school, you might not get the career that you want. I did not go to school for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, when I finished my master's, my grandma said, I want a doctor in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing my doctorate right now because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because she raised me in a way that now I know I am the woman that they raised. I am the woman that they put on the table. They made sure nothing, I never missed a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The love, the care, everything that they taught me, it's still here with me.
Mm-hmm.
That little girl grew up with me, and that's how they pushed their generation.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm gonna know when I have my child, it's gonna be better than me. It's gonna be better than them. But it all happened because of them.
Yeah.
So this is the impact that I want to give to a lot of young kids, or even my age. I'm 30 now. And I want like a lot of the girls, skateboarding girls, black women,
Mm-hmm.
stay strong, stay there, do things for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not other people. If you want to do your school or whatever career or whatever thing you want to push forward for yourself, do it for yourself, because the young generation are looking at it.
Yeah.
They might not say anything, they might not comment on it, but they're looking at it.
Yeah.
They're like, I want to be like that person or a better version of that person. How can I do it? And if you're not doing anything good, they also gonna follow that.
Yeah. Look, so true, so true, and that's a book in I guess in overview of the book you just gave it. Summary, that's the book, right? Because you think about it, like you I think about our ancestors,
Yes.
right? Even down from even before slavery up until to now, right? Our ancestors survived just enough for us to get to that next thing that we need to be able to get to. And so thinking about in slavery, it could have been easily giving up. It could have been
Yeah.
easily, I don't, figuring out ways to just not worry about anything, and just being done with it, right?
Right.
They didn't have a choice, right? But also too, it could like that mindset to give up could have easily been there, and that'd have been it. But they found a way to survive. They found a way to push generations forward just enough so that we can still be here today,
Right.
right? And so that impact, like the impact of our ancestors, still lives with us, and through, I guess, informally or unconventionally, their mentality, we somehow in some ways body the mentality of our ancestors and
Yeah.
how they survived just enough to get us to where we are today, right?
Right.
I tell people like, like pushing generations forward is not, it's for the dreams and the successes that you'll never see,
True.
right?
Yes.
Everything matters to the next generation, so your children's children, right? Not your own. You can also, yes, your own children, but also the children that will come after you will see the benefits of your labor or the
Right.
benefits of you pushing generations forward. But like we had to learn from our ancestors. We had to learn from grandma. We had to learn from grandpa. And those that loving and those caring moments and those crucial wisdom and knowledge moments that they instilled in us
Yes.
got us to where they are, got us to where we are. Because my grandfather, my grandmother, they didn't have those opportunities, right? They didn't have the opportunities to sit here and do a podcast,
Right, yeah.
right? Or have their voice be heard. Like my grandmother worked in the field, right? My grandmother, it was, it was still basically slavery, but it wasn't slavery, right? But in the early 1900s, right?
It was still labor.
It's still like poor labor. You get
Yeah.
paid no wages. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but they survived long enough, right, so that we can get doctorate
Right.
degrees, get master degrees, become these things that we are now. But it's because of somebody decided
Yes.
that you're going to be a better version of me, and I'm going to figure out how and what ways I can push generations forward. I may not have the education, but I'll give you a safe home.
Yes.
I may not have all the fancy, all the fancy cars, but I'll help you get there, right? We can take the bus. I may not have these meals and all these things that come with wealth and comes with I guess, success for some people, but I can give you knowledge. I can give you wisdom to help you in your next phase of life, to help you take our family line, our ancestry line to the next level or to the next phase of thriving.
I love that. That just reminded me of my grandma because she's that type of person. She doesn't read, she doesn't write, but she's the best at counting money. I'm like, how can you do that? Like, she's an expert. And when I ask her for something, she doesn't have the right answer because I'm someone who has a master's degree. Like, she didn't go to school, but the knowledge she has, I usually just look at her and like, you're so smart. But back in the day, smart means what?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have that. Like, even though she gave that to me, I gave you the opportunity to have something that I did not have. But it was up to me to make the decision. So you can try to push, 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 but it's up for the person to actually intake and push forward and make a decision.
Oh my God, that's so true.
Like, if you decide you want to write this book, you will write this book.
Yeah.
I might tell you, don't write this book, it's worthless. But if you decide this is what you want to do and you want to push forward, many people might not want to read it, but that one person might impact their life.
Yeah.
And that person might become a president of the United States.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's just,
And that has to be worth something,
yes.
right? And that one person has to be worth, because that one person is not just that one person.
Yes.
Who that one person will impact over the generations, you'll never fully ever know the extent of your impact.
Yes.
But that one person will impact other generations that will impact other generations that will impact other generations. And so, like, to be quite honest, like, I think we live in a world and society where, like, it needs to impact multitude of people.
Yes.
And we need it through this, we need it through that. But no, like, lessons learned, you can't really put a number on that, right?
I think that just falls back on it's exactly that, because I was raised in a house that my mom was a single woman. I am in a generation where a lot of women are single women. They're not married, not even divorced. They have never been married. So they kind of push that on you because they think it's normal. Don't follow the norms. Don't follow everything that you've learned. But my grandma always told me, like, if you're gonna do it right. Don't waste your time. That's one thing you never get back. But I was young. Who cared? Like, if I was 19, 20, I don't care about time. I just want to have fun and party. And when you actually sit down, you're like, what do I want in 10 years? Like, life. Do you want a husband? Do you want kids? And my pastor tells me that all the time. It is what is it that you want? Like, because I ask him, I know what I want. He's like, no, you don't know what you want. Sit down and ask yourself, talk to God, what do you want? It's not materialistic, it's spiritual. What do you want from the inside? So that's something that you got to push forward. Talk to people, make sure people are actually getting to know you, where you're coming from. Not materialistic, not just you walking around, oh, he got money. It's not that. There's something, success is more than just that. Like, it's internally. And if you think you can do it, you will get it done. But it's just, sometimes it's hard for people, but it's an internal decision to keep pushing forward and make sure it's done. It gets done.
That's crazy because, like, one of the things that I've learned, especially when trying to figure out what do I want, what do you want?
Yeah, who am I? Right? What do I want?
Yeah, like, what does that even mean to anybody that's, especially at an age where it's, again, you want to party, what does that even mean, right? But I think the biggest thing for me, or how I was able to navigate that, and also navigate answering those questions, I guess, in the same way. Tough talks, right? Yeah. Having those tough talks with myself, man, that is probably the greatest flex I think I've been able to, or skill I've been able to build, and also to be able to fully implement who I am in my own life, right? So I can argue truth with myself, right? How do I argue truth, right, with myself?
Right.
How do I understand, no, that's not you, this is you. And that's the biggest part of thinking about how I kind of have those tough talks with myself.
Yes.
Right? Those tough, it's important. And that's how I figure out who I am. What do I want in 10 years?
I think that goes back to the book. Part of the book that you said, what is lost can be found again.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you actually mean when you said that? It comes with your, was it related to your upbringings up until now?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely, right. I mean, thinking about when you think about what feels lost versus what is actually lost.
Yes.
Right. And so those those points in your life where you're like, what is, when those points in your life when you realize that I don't have it anymore. I can't go back and get, what my ancestors at some point lost, right? I can, right? And so thinking about that mentality in itself is defeatist or defeating mentality, right? And so who I am and what I got lost in sometimes, I can be found, right? I can figure out how I can understand who I am again and I guess refine myself. Is that a word? Is that a word?
Yeah.
Refine
Yeah,
myself
you refound
all over
yourself. Yeah.
again. And so sometimes everything looks lost, right? Everything looks like you can't, but you can get those things back. You
Right.
can, through your mistakes, through your difficult decision making, when things didn't go your way, right? You can get back to the place where you feel like I found myself, but then also too, the things that I've lost, I can get again.
That's very good. I think from my own experience, I was getting in a path that I was like, I'm going to finish my bachelor's degree and everything was going great. I decided to go study in Japan by myself. I'm going to go to Japan. Then COVID hit. I was going March 6th, and then COVID hit. I couldn't go anymore. So I found myself just burying it, like, what do I want to do with my life now? And unfortunately, a good friend of mine who was my brother, kind of, and he passed away. It was a very sad thing to me. And when that happened, I found myself burying into things like drinking, partying too much, just because instead of speaking up, going to therapy, like letting people know what's actually happening, because he was really close to me. Like he was someone that I was waiting to come to my house, and then I heard that he passed away. So the healing process was very hard. I had to sit myself and be like, what do you actually want? You're not going to learn anything from this if you don't push yourself, if you don't get out of this dark hole that you're in, because people are not going to help you if they don't know what's going on. And it's hard for people to even reach out to you when it's good, mind you, when it's bad.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I learned from myself, to push myself and make sure people know what's going on, because you don't want to dive into depression. And at the end of the day, people be like, she seemed fine or he seemed fine. But fine for some people is not fine for you. It's just like pushing out of that hole and make sure other people understand what's going on, what's going on. So people can learn from that, that you should speak up, let people know what's going on, let people know your life, let people know like your truth in one way or another.
Yeah, and that's why you got to write the book.
Yes.
Right. Because that's like somebody needs to hear it.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to understand. It's gonna be hard to formulate in words, but you're right. But it doesn't matter, because even how you formulate it, like someone like that person may not understand it.
Yeah.
That person may not understand it, but there is somebody in every word, in every way you say it, I get it, and that's enough, right? And so and I also tell people all the time, like, how do you get healing, right? How do you heal from trauma, from generational trauma?
Yes.
How do you heal from those deep down wounds that are, you're still dealing with even as an adult, right? Well, the first thing, and we talked about this earlier, is like we got to be real about this. We got to stay and be loud about it, right? It's no more being in the corner and secretly hurting. No, now it's more, now for this point in our lives, it's now about telling people I'm hurting, right? Being able to really say, hey, I can't take it anymore. Like, and when we get to that point, and that goes back to arguing truth with yourself.
Yes.
When you can get to that point where you're like, I ain't got it today. Or hey, I'm hurting. That hurt me. I don't have it anymore. Right? It's a struggle sometimes to continue to always do that. But I think for a long time, for me, it was like you wouldn't even know I was hurting. You wouldn't even know I was hurting. But over time, as I got better, again, you're not fully perfect at it, but you do realize that telling someone or telling yourself that you're hurting and you need help.
Yes.
It's power in that.
Yes.
It's power in that. And then go get the help. That's amazing.
I think that's the magic in it. And from my perspective, it has been hard. I would say a lot has changed since I went out myself and I'm like, I need help. Just talking to a friend, they don't know me. Like they do know me. So I need to talk to someone that don't know me. Like someone that will just sit and listen. I went to therapy, and the first day I was like, it's not gonna help. And then the second and the third time I was like, this is what I needed. I don't want anyone to give me opinion. I just want someone to sit and listen, because there's a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes that people will never know if you don't tell them, because everything seems perfect, but it's never perfect. You just have to be out there. And I'm glad that now I see a lot of more people now thinking, okay, so this is what I should do. Because being a Cape Verdean, this is like I said before, it's something, it's not okay. Like going to therapy is just like, you're a Black woman. Why do you need therapy? Like, talk to people. It's not like that. Or if you're going to therapy, something is going on, you're crazy, you're thinking about killing yourself or something. No, it's just like something that happened to me 20 years ago, and people still thinking, you're still onto that? Yes, it's a pain that I've never talked to anyone about it. So it'll never heal if you don't let it out. It's still a wound.
And your brain in itself will find ways to. I think this speaks to our ancestors, especially like to go into therapy, like just suck it up. And,
Yes.
But that's a survival technique, right? That's a survival mechanism that we've used for generations and generations, even through slavery, is to suck it up.
Right.
Is to like don't feel, just figure out a way to just navigate life without it, right? And tuck it away, burn it away, and don't talk about it. But and so like what seems like a life lesson, right? Or what seems like a good thing to do to help someone survive, but it's not really healthy.
It's actually killing you on the inside.
Exactly, right? We understand, like, especially people of color, like the high blood pressure, all those diseases come from, those stress, right? And so like when we as we understand and know more about trying to heal, we have to take a stand and say, you know what? I'm gonna get help. Right? That suck it up generation, that just like bottled up, can no longer be a thing moving forward.
Right.
It stops with me. Right? That stops with me. And my children's children will never understand or know that you cannot not go get help.
Right.
And that's breaking generational curses, generational trauma, even right there. Because we gotta deal with it. There's no more of just like sucking it up. You can't cry. You can't do this. No, we doing that now.
I think I definitely relate to that, because that's the point that I was at. And I was like, I'm going to break the curse. I'm going to be the person that is going to go and look for help, because I can tell that internally with my people, I can communicate with that, because it's just like nothing happened. And why you still bringing this up? It's like, no, I need to stop this and let people know that I'm hurt. I want someone to listen to me, someone to help me, because this has happened at that I brought a lot of my trauma to people, like friends, relationships, unknowingly, because it's just like, I think it's fine. It's normal because I've had it my whole life. But once you find help, then you realize it's not them, it's you. If you don't find help, if you're not there with yourself, you're not going to be able to go anywhere, because you're just at the same point in life that you're thinking it's okay, because I've been dealing with it for my whole life. So it's normal. It's not normal. People need to know that it's not normal. Like get out there and ask for help, because that's going to break the curse right now. And your next generation is going to know that it's okay. Like just push forward, like knowing it's right to look for help.
And we can heal from our trauma.
Yes.
Which I think that's something it's a nuanced thing, and it's something that no one believes, but we can.
Yeah.
We can teach ourselves to have tough talks and to be able to throw ourselves down enough where we can say, you know what? I could react this way, right? I could go in survival mode because I'm scared and this reminds me of the situation. But you know what? I'm going to make myself do something different. Right? That's the brain science of it, right? How do you, especially in those moments with enough practice, with enough understanding about what your triggers are when it comes to trauma, I could do that.
Right.
I could, I could fight. I could do all those things. I could walk away and just cuss you out. I could do all those things, right? But because I'm trying to heal from my trauma, which I can heal from, I'm going to choose to do something different.
I'm going to work on myself before I put myself in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. Or more, even that situation, because you can never really avoid your trigger sometimes. Sometimes they're just there. But you can avoid, or you can understand how you react to your triggers.
Yes.
Right? And then over time, with enough practice, that used to trigger my trauma. But I'm healed now.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that anymore. Right? And so those are the things that, but imagine passing that on to your children.
Just shutting off and just
Yeah,
like, no,
yeah,
they're gonna deal with it the same
yeah.
way I deal with it. It's
You
fine.
no, and right, and then like that hurts.
Yeah.
And then like we're still sort of we're still passing off that same hurt to the next generation, but it starts with us, right? You know what? No more.
Yes.
You know, we're breaking that in this family. In this family, we're gonna talk to somebody. In this family, we gonna actually have a conversation about how you heal from that.
Yes.
Because you can never fully avoid trauma. You can't avoid trauma. Trauma, if you get in a car accident, that could be traumatic. You can't, you know, trauma will happen in a person's life, but it's how we deal with it over time supports our healing and growth from that.
I used to be the type of person that I wouldn't cry in front of people. Like I would be so hurt. And I remember, I think I was 12, and one of my best friends in high school, he passed away. We were so close, like super close. I went to the funeral, I couldn't cry. My friends were making fun of me, like, you have such a dry eye. But I kept that thing inside for the longest time. Like I was still hurt. Every time I think about it, I was crying by myself. And then this happened with my other friend who was my brother, but I was older. And then when here, I couldn't cry. I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, am I this hurt that my pain won't come out? People would think that I'm hurtless, but I'm like, no, like I'm super hurt. And then I went to the funeral. When I saw him getting buried, that's everything, when everything hit me. I burst out crying. And then I was like, so I can cry. This is the first time that I allowed myself to be vulnerable and let people see that I'm a human being. Like I can get hurt, I can cry. Like I'm always laughing, but I can cry too.
Yeah.
And ever since that changed, like if I'm emotional right now, I'll pour down tears. Then I'm like, I love this new version of me because I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable and to let others know, like to let her know, my niece know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to, if something is wrong, tell people about it, communicate. Don't just put everything inside, because if you put it today, tomorrow, in 3 days, you're going to let it out and it's not going to be in the most positive way. You have to talk, you have to communicate. And so when people come after you, they'll know it's okay. Like you're right there. I didn't see the struggle they went through because I didn't see that in my house. I just saw positivity, communication, and we just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Who taught you? Like the question I was asked, like who taught you that you couldn't, that you shouldn't cry, or you couldn't cry?
It wasn't, nobody taught me that. I just thought that I was a tough person because I was so hurt. I've been hurt for the longest time. And then to me, it was just like, it's too much for me to cry. Cry to me was a sign of weakness. And I've been through a lot that people don't know. It's just like relationship, friends, family. It's so many hurt piled up that I think that when people see that part of me, they'll think I'm weak and they'll take me for granted. So for the longest time, that has been like something that I had to deal with. Like, don't show your emotions. And if you do, show the bare minimum so they think you're fine. And that was something that I was struggling with.
Yeah. Something I mean, trying to heal from something like that, because I still struggle with it myself, right? Thinking about ways to be vulnerable and be emotional, my automatic traumatic reaction will always be, that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Is always toughen up.
Yeah.
Like just whatever, cool, whatever
Get it together.
Yeah, get together, because I have to be the person that, no, it has to be this.
Yes.
But and learning about who I am and learning about I can't continue being that person has allowed me to have some tough talks with myself about when I go to that moment, when I feel like that, can I do something different, right? I tell people all the time, like there's one thing about me is like the compassion boundaries, right? And the minute someone tells me something, they got something going on, I want to take care of it, right? And I have to have boundaries in that, right? But so like I said all that to say, working on the new you is always working on the new you.
Yes.
Right? You're gonna always, and sometimes you're gonna always find yourself in a situation where you have to, where your old you is coming up, but you always got like your new you, like no.
Power. Yeah. Not
right? You see, and that's the arguing truth part that I think I found so useful. And we talk about in the book too as well. Like, how do you argue truth with yourself?
Yes.
Because there's one person that can lie to us the most, and it's ourselves. Like the new you is like, no, this is me. Yeah. This is where I feel comfortable. This is where I am. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is how I want to navigate my life. But the old you is like, Is it?
You're still missing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's there?
Can we
Yeah.
go back to the trauma? Can we go back to? But like, no, no. Let me argue the truth with myself because I'm not going to continue telling myself lies. And that to me is a step in not saying that we're going to we're going to completely heal from these things, but how I challenge the old self, the old me, and say, you know what, no more.
I love that. I
You
love
know.
that. And I hope with this podcast, it brings a lot of people to relate to us, and whoever does relate to us to actually push themselves to get out of the shell, get out of your comfort zone, and speak to someone. Whatever it's hurting you, don't pile it up, because a lot of people will see you as a negative person, but you're so hurt on the inside that people don't know that part. And that's the idea with the podcast, to talk about different things, different experience, like your journey, my journey. My journey is not the same as yours, but I relate so much to your book. So that's part of, go read the book.
Yeah, appreciate
Go
it.
learn it. Go learn it. Like, take yourself out of the shell. Read the book, because even if it's just the first 2 pages, that's what I read. I was like, this is me. I relate to this. He's talking to me. And this is the part, like, as I kept reading it, I was like, it's not the pages, because everything that I'm reading is like a Bible to me. It's just reading my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was texting my friends, read this book. Regardless of what you do, read this book, because I'm pretty sure you're going to relate to some part of it. Some things are going to catch on to you, and then you're like, where am I right now? What decisions am I making for myself, or who's making decision of my life for me? So this is the best part of it. It's just to just like learn from other people, learn from their experience, learn from their journey, and see how much more I need to heal myself, or how much more I need to learn and put myself out there to learn more things, and then to put that learn in practice.
Yeah.
So
So Andy's book's coming. Andy's book's coming real, real soon, y'all. So
it's coming. It's coming.
the book's coming real soon. So, but yeah, absolutely. I guess I appreciate your support. And that's the whole, I guess, premise of the book, right? Is how do we find healing, and how, as we navigate these relatable experiences,
Yes.
how do we find healing, right? And I can't change, and this is the biggest thing of the book, is we can't change what has happened to us.
Right.
It happened,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying we have to be okay with that, but we have to heal from that, right?
It's just like, you can't change the past, but you can change the future. So why not change it?
Yeah.
Why not make it better?
Why not, right? And then that's not to take away like what's happened to someone, but you can't. And we all have to, and I think the biggest thing about healing is we have to accept that.
Right.
And because if we stay there, we're going to always live in there, and we're going to make decisions there. We're going to jump into relationships there. We're
Yes.
going to jump into friendships there. We're going to jump into opportunities that we're going to miss there, because we weren't fully ready for what you just said. Our new self, like our new self, is not there yet, because
Yeah.
we're still operating as an old person and as an old self, and we miss things. Right? But how do I understand that happened to me? I can't change it. Accept that. Grieve over the things that, hey, in this moment I need to grieve about those things. That's okay. But now how do I move forward? Right? How do I find purpose through? I guarantee you this: my children, or the children that I have impact over, will never experience or never see or never understand or hear those lessons that didn't make any sense about healing.
I love that.
So all those things are, how do we make sure that uh, we understand that you can't change anything, you can't change your past, you can't change who hurt you, you can't change, the things, those traumatic events in your life, but you can change
What's next?
what's next.
I love that. This has been amazing. I love it.
We're having a good time.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
We knew that we hit off right from the start. We were having the podcast without having the podcast.
Yes, it was just a conversation, and I love that, because it's going to relate to a lot of people, and this is going to bring so much hope and joy, especially for the young upcomings, because I'm pretty sure my niece is going to ask me a lot of questions. What do you mean when you were saying about this? But it's just like, I want people to learn from different people, different experience. Like, if you're going through whatever you're going through, just learn from me and the guests, like what they've gone through, like their journey, what they did to be where they are now.
Yeah.
Because regardless of what you've been through,
Yeah.
That does not make you that person.
Yeah.
You have to create your own person. You have to make your own decisions and not allow anybody else to make a decision for you. All right, Kwamane, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been very productive. And I'm very, very happy, believe it, I'm very happy that you are my first guest.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that this is going to deliver a lot of great message to people out there to know that it's good to put yourself out there. It's good to find healings. So the next generation to come does not go through the same thing as you've gone through, because they're going to look for help and they're going to know that it's not okay to keep things to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have any message you want to bring out to our listeners? And
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is, and it's a working progress, but also something that I've been able to really navigate from, or not navigate from, but something that I've been really able to practice, and that is always argue truth, right? As you think about your life, right? Who's the biggest expert of your life? That's you, right? And so thinking about that, who's also the biggest liar in your life? That's also you, right? So if you think about that and understand that, you can argue truth with yourself because you know the truth about you and no one else can change that. And so with pushing the generations forward, understand that that is the premise of how you take that next push to the next generation is understanding how to argue truth with who you are with yourself. If you understand that, you can be at the table. If you understand that, you can adopt the mindset of pushing generations forward.
thank you so much. I love that. Well, thank you. We are getting to the end of the podcast. I hope you guys loved it and come back for more.